So as you can see, we're in the self-management section. And remember, this morning we've been building up to this. We're building our ability to become aware. And then now this is the time where we look at what can we do with that awareness, with what you can uncover. And that's is self-management. So what is this all about? So cute. It's about moving from compulsion to choice. Right? Whether you remember getting caught up, that you're compelled to act and feel a certain way because you're caught up in it. But now you have the space to make a choice. So coming back to Dr. Viktor Frankl's saying, between stimulus and response, there is a space. So that space, I like to think of it as like a sacred pause. It gives you a time to choose differently and choose wisely. And I like to use this analogy because sometimes I talk about mindfulness at work. People think that's about being nice. You have to be a nice guy. Okay? To me, no. It's about being not mindful. So if I'm a bit of a, like if I need to, I can be a mindful asshole, right? If I need to kick off a response, but do that mindfully. It doesn't have, whereas if I just do that react, I might do it with regret. But I'm doing it by choice now. Because I might need that to shock them out of the system. But it's a choice. And that's the difference. One is compulsion. I can't even control. I just react. I'm angry. But then now, I think he might need a bit of aggression in service of them. Okay. So self-management is the process of managing one's internal states, impulses, and resources. That's how we can manage ourselves. What it isn't, it's not about avoiding, suppressing, or denying. Very similar to emotion. What happens when you try to avoid and suppress? You get stressed. And what happens when we're stressed? Our amygdala part of our brain, our primal part of the brain take over, and then we're not thinking straight. Right? So avoiding or suppressing and denying is not particularly helpful because we get in a reactive mode. What it is helpful is about reducing harm to ourselves and others. So remember, I was saying you'll be mindful in how I respond. Rather than compulsion where I respond, and I know if you're like me, sometimes I just responded and I was thinking backwards, I think, I really shouldn't say that. I kind of got myself in a whole lot more trouble. It feels good at the moment, I let it out. I let them know their place, right? But it's like afterwards, the consequence is not that pleasant, right? So that's the thing. Let's reduce harm to ourselves and others, and we learn to navigate the challenges more skillfully. So I like the analogy of like canoeing or whitewater rafting. In the beginning, all you're doing is trying to survive, getting down the rapid, and hopefully, a smooth ride. Okay, nothing too challenging. You don't want to hit the shore. But as you progress and become more skillful at managing, it's very similar to your analogy this morning, Ian, about the jumping on the train, getting caught up on it, and waiting for 10 stations to realize you're on the train. If you can become more skillful at navigating the canoe, and you can let the train go by, you can use a higher challenge. You can take on greater challenges for which we can use this skill to the benefit of us and others. Okay, so it's a skill that we can develop. So how do we respond to these things that triggers us? Okay, when we get triggered, something happens and automatically we feel this sense of anger or stress or anxiety or fear. How do we respond to triggers? So going back to the brain model, we talk about the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So the amygdala is very much the primal part of our brain where we talk about emotion, the fear, the fight or flight and freeze response. What happens is when that gets triggered, it could be a threat or maybe it's overexcitement. In Chinese, there's a saying where sometimes you get too excited, you end up creating tragedy for yourself. too happy, right? So it's not just negative emotions. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, and that can hurt us. So it goes both ways. When that happens, what happens is the amygdala will actually send a signal up to your prefrontal cortex. And this is where that part of the brain is able to regulate and interpret the signal, right? So emotion, fear, or fight opportunities come up, your prefrontal cortex can modulate that response. You modulate the duration, the intensity, and interpretation of what that means. Okay. So in the next section, we're gonna look at a video of a way for which we can deal with triggers. Okay. So hopefully the audio will work because I switched laptop.
Threat, real or imagined? This can rapidly shift our affective state, fear, anxiety, arousal. And this is really embedded in the emotional reactivity in the limbic system, amygdala, anterior cingulate. This sends a bottom-up signal to recruit help from other parts of the brain, other brain systems. When that's working correctly, then in blue, you see here that there are regulatory systems that then begin to process what is that threat, what are some strategies, how can I work with it? And when it's working well, it sends a top-down signal to modulate the intensity, the duration, the interpretation of that ongoing emotion experience. But I would also add that especially in human beings, this is mediated through our view of self, be it positive or negative or otherwise, and our ability to use language and thinking to modulate and understand our experiences. So this is the beginning of a complex system that people are beginning to examine using all kinds of neuroscientific tools.
Okay. So that was a video from Dr. Philip A. Golden, who's one of the founding members of Search Inside Self. And it talks about the neuroscience, about what's happening in the brain when we're triggered. So in his video, he talks about, hey, you'll have a threat. What happens? It could be, it's a fear, anxiety, arousal. Then it gets up to the regulatory part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, and you can modulate the response. You get the opportunity to translate or interpret the response. And as we train our self-management, we are actually building our skills of regulation. It's like a muscle. You can get bigger, you can get better at managing and translating a response. Okay, so did I miss anything? With anything you would like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's all good, yeah.
Great. Okay, so
I do have some questions on regulation
Yep.
systems. So it's the logic that you're talking about?
yeah, so it's a prefrontal part of your brain, prefrontal cortex. What happens is a signal goes up. There's, it's input. It's like data coming into your brain. You have a part of your brain that does a calculation. It needs to determine what this means in terms of what it means to us. Okay? So, and how long should this effect last? And that's the part where it becomes conscious and you have opportunity to actually regulate and change that response to a way that's more helpful for us.
So, for example, emotion of, say, anxiety.
Yep.
And so someone's in that anxiety, it's a feeling. And then you start thinking, why am I getting anxiety right now? Is that what it is? It's sort of going back and forth?
Yeah, so once you feel anxiety in your body, you can say, well, why am I feeling this? Where is this at? You can become, the terminology, study it like a scientist, or with curiosity and kindness. Maybe this anxiety comes up because I've got this, I saw something unjust happen. Let's say I saw some workplace bullying. And as a result, I feel threat. But sometimes I may not notice that when I see that happen. It's only afterwards when I notice that feeling is coming up. Okay, I feel this sense of anxiety. Why is that? What's bothering me? Right? Remember, emotion contains information. And that's where information become a really useful tool. Maybe someone just said one thing that was actually pulling someone down. And that's why I feel anxious. That's when you can use this as a cue, almost like a rich database of information data, and for which you can analyze and translate. Does that kind of answer your question? Yeah.
Going back to the amygdala hijack, so when amygdala hijack happens, is that we are not going through the regulatory system and we react without regulation?
Or basically it's a way where it pretty much taken over, where we get getting caught up in it. So we don't have that space. Remember that sacred pause, that space for which we can move from compulsion to choice. That's what we're looking at exercising, and that's what we're looking at building and improving. As we get better at that, you find that space become bigger. We're less reactive. I don't know if you've seen Spider-Man, they've got spider sense, and people are throwing punches at Spider-Man, and everything is slow motion to him, right? It's like, whoa, that punch is coming, and they've got plenty of time to choose. To me, it feels like that. When you've got good self-management skills, you've got so much time and so much more space to choose your response wisely.
Wouldn't it take too long to respond?
Sorry?
Wouldn't it take too long to respond?
But that's a skill, because you get better at it. To the outside world, you just did a response in like that. To your inside world, you've got plenty of time.
Yeah, but I think to that point, maybe another dimension of it, maybe you intentionally trying to have think and regulate, but it's taking too long.
Yeah, with the workplace right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So if you take too long to respond, they'll be like, "Well, are you retarded? Can't you?"
Yeah. So.
For example, mindfully even walking to the washroom, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it would normally take 2 minutes, and if you're mindfully doing it, probably will take 3 minutes. You're just watching every step.
Yeah.
So you automatically slowed your process down.
Exactly. So we get paid to think fast on our feet. That's how promotion happen in modern workplace, right?
Yeah.
Instant response. What's the answer? But the thing is, often we realize that the best answers are not the instant answers, are the reactive answers, and we need time. That's why there's two practices. There's the dedicated practice, like going to the gym. We train this muscle so that when we come put in those situations, we can respond just like that. You build the skills. You get really good intentional practice. Set aside time. Exactly. Right? So when that moment happened, you just respond. It becomes unconscious competence. It's like every set of skill, you can master this, but it does mean you have to spend time in mental gym.
Practicing that skill has actually helped me be faster at work, because you have those micro freezes of panic that happens if you haven't practiced that. So even you got to freeze up, and then you've got to.
Yeah.
I've actually managed to eliminate those micro panics.
Fantastic.
So now I'm like, I catch it in a blink of an eye, and then I'm smooth through it, and bang.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I love that. So,
And what's
yeah.
important.
I think it's great to hear examples like that, but
Yeah.
I think for most of us, this whole amygdala hijack thing is someone says something, they're being derogatory to one of your workmates, you go, "Oh no, you can't talk like that," and then you go, "Okay, I gotta catch myself."
Yeah.
Because my regulatory systems didn't catch in fast enough.
That's
and
right.
I guess it's with practice, you go, "That,"
Yeah.
you stop yourself, and then you go,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you don't say anything, and then you go,
Cool.
you know?
Yeah.
It's being aware of what's happening in the brain, and I guess it's just putting it out there that we can train our brain to get better at, catch ourselves earlier
Yeah.
and earlier.
And the crazy thing is, the brain has the capability to speed up so incredibly.
Yeah.
First time I went on autobahn on a motorbike, I was doing 290. Honestly, like it looked, like the scenery looked blurred, like I was freaking out because it was going past. And this is the most amazing experience. You just, I just held throttle and got up there and hit the speed limit. And then all of a sudden, this blur did this,
Yeah.
Slow motion.
and then it started going, and I was like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
It's incredible. The brain just goes, "Now I've formed patterns."
I understand.
Yeah.
The whole thing slowed down.
Yeah.
I slowed down to 100,
Yeah.
and I felt like I could get off and walk.
You gotta go
Yeah.
faster.
So that's the thing. Time can be relative.
Yeah.
It depends on, so, and that's what we're working on. There's going to be an exercise we're going to do straight after this, which trains our ability to handle ourselves when we're triggered. But before I go on, I just want to make sure when I say triggered, did that resonate? Can you all identify a moment where you were triggered? Yeah? And just make sure it's not foreign to, maybe some of you are a lot better than I am. You know, said something we regret. Okay, cool. Just make sure we're on the same page. Okay, so next Ella is going to demonstrate show you through an exercise how we
Actually, I
can
think you
exercise that.
guys already set up the stage for this page. Because all the discussions we had this morning and this afternoon is all about how we're going to respond. And particularly, how can we hold our reaction at the onset of this reaction. So there's one practice that in Silly talk about SBNRR. If you want to remember this term, there's an easy way to remember that. It's when you get triggered or stressed, just remember somebody needs rest and relaxation. So that's the easy way for you to remember that. There are 5 steps included in this exercise. If you're only going to remember one, I would suggest you remember stop. And how do we have the cue for us to stop? If I can speak from my personal experience, actually it's from body scan. If you do body scan really well, if you know your body really well, anger does not come as boom with anger. No, anger coming into different changes of tensions and the temperatures in your body from different parts of your body. So even just to have a millimeter of 3 seconds or 1 second, you know this thing, there's trace in this environment trigger my anger, and it's coming. So knowing this is coming allows you to stop. Without knowing it, of course, boom, you start to react. So the very first step is to stop. That's the sacred pause we're talking about in mindfulness. And when you stop, the next thing you need to remember is breathe. If you start to pay attention to yourself starting from now, just notice. Either you get angered or when you get excited, the first thing we lose is the rhythm of breathing. Can be shallow, can be quick, can be fast. That also lead to how much oxygen in the blood we can transform to the prefrontal cortex, and also relate to do we have this amygdala hijack or not. So if we can remember the rhythm of a breath, don't even need to slow down, just the normal rhythm of a breathing that can keep all the biology system in the right place and do their work. And then next thing we move to notice. So what do you notice? In the morning we're talking about primarily the emotion is just a physiological phenomenon. So when I treat, what do I notice? What kind of emotions comes with me? Comes with these feelings, any sensations in my body. Does temperature change? Does tension changes in a certain part of our body? So then we can move into the next step of reflect. And constantly people say, I'm easily to be triggered by this person. In the spiritual world, if we use a spiritual way to explain that, we always say whoever triggers you actually is offering you a gift for you to discover yourself. So it has nothing to do with that person. It has something to do with your past. Remember what we say the function of amygdala. Amygdala is the smoke detector. It helps us to stay away from all the dangers. So what are the dangers? So it's from the past. We might have already experienced something that give us very strong emotional memories. So hippocampus remember that, and amygdala remember that. But conscious mind, we don't remember that. It all happened in the past. So when we were triggered, it's opened the doors for us to look into where does this strong emotion come from? It might come from my values that probably is in this disagreement with this situation. It probably also comes from my expectations. I have a high expectation, and in this situation, my expectation was not fulfilled, so I get triggered. So emotion, strong emotion, is doors to our inner life. That's the opportunity. If we can reflect on it, it helps us to know ourselves much better. And also the other way to reflect is, if this conflict or this trigger involves another person, one thing helped me a lot is I need to remind myself at the time, this person, no matter what this person did or say to me, make me upset, I need to remember this person actually want to do something, make him feel happy, safe, and being respected. Sometimes probably that's the best way this person knows how to manage that situation. So probably unconsciously they did something harmful to me, but that's not their intention. So this remind me, this kind of reminder actually helped me to distance myself from this harmful situation. Then the last step is, if we have done all this before, then it's a better time for us to choose what kind of response we should take at the moment. So this response, if we can have time to think, usually we need to think what kind of response can deliver the best outcome, rather than make myself feel comfortable now than regret later on. So this is SBNR that what we use to help us to deal with the triggers, what give us lots of emotional energy at the moment. So as Stephen mentioned, you guys all been triggered in the past? Cool, fantastic. So I would like you to bring into your mind one of the recent experience you have that you were triggered. Not so extreme, huh? So on the scale of 0 to 10, choose something on the level of 6 that you are triggered enough to make you feel some emotions, but not so bad that you have to go to the counseling. So think about that situation, either involves someone in your circle. So think about that image in your mind. I give you 30 seconds to think about that. Then I'm going to ask you to share with someone next to you. Does something trigger you, give you some emotional energy, but not so bad, but bad enough? Do you all have something in your mind? Okay. Now is the time for you to turn to your neighbor, and you're going to share with your neighbor in the free flow 1 minute altogether. What is the situation? Don't need to share too much personal details. For example, you can tell your partner that, okay, I'm triggered by this email at work about blah, blah, blah. You don't need to tell your partner, hey, I was so triggered by Ian because he said something at work. No need too much details. So just to share with your partner something triggered recently, and share with your neighbor, and then we're going to do an exercise together. So how can we deal with that? No, just the situation you want to. Yeah. Only share the situation, experience that you are triggered.
My youngest brother and I worked with.
So maybe
Yeah,
2
two
or
of
3.
The winter time was like our time of intensity.
I forget. course, I don't agree with that because I want to slam my fist on the table. So, and it happened a couple of times in quick succession, and then a couple of maybe 30 minutes later. I guess I had 6 sort of worked out.
From the heaven to the hell.
No, I had a sleep
Don't
that
slam my fist
in my
on
practice session.
it's
Always
just
have to time.
how something trigger you and you respond to
We
it.
all share, we all get I give you another 10 seconds.
Well, I guess it actually faces as it put off just a couple other people. Which has got a whole bunch of strong no, I mean, people sort of came back to me. It was kind of like a figured out where I got reflection back
I'm so gentle. We got
That's what I said.
Okay, let's come back. I know you're triggered with this situation. You so wanted to vent with your partner, but that's not the point. So let's come back to the group. And we're going to do an exercise of SBNR together to help you to deal with the triggered situation. So now you share with your partner, you repeat and relieve that situation, I trust. That situation now is in your mind. Okay, come back and put your stuff on the floor. We're going to have a meditation session now. So find a position that you feel comfortable. And relaxed and alert at the same time. And we can use our breath to center and ground ourselves. So bring your attention to your breath. Noticing that you are breathing in and breathing out. Noticing in which part of your body that you can sensing that you are breathing most vividly. And make that spot in your body to be your anchor point. Just gently settle your mind on the breath. And now let's bring into your mind this memory of an unhappy event that you just experienced. You might feel frustration or anger or hurt. Or any kind of experience that you think you are triggered. In the next 2 minutes, see if you can relive the event and also feel the sensations of all those emotions that associates with this event. Pay attention to your body sensations, noticing the changes in the temperature or tension when you think about this event. Now we're going to mentally practice. How are we going to respond? Remember, the first two steps are to stop and to breathe. So pausing at the onset of a trigger is a very powerful and important skill. So we're going to practice pausing by focusing our minds on the breath and not reacting to the emotion in any way. If you like, you may try taking slow, deep breaths. And let's just pause here for about 30 seconds. Now let's moving into notice. We notice by experiencing the emotion in our bodies. So let's bring your attention to your body. What does an unpleasant emotion feels like in the body? Do you feel that in your face, your neck, shoulder? Or do you feel that in your chest and back? Do you sense difference in the level of tension or temperature? No matter what you're sensing now, let's just experience it without judging. So emotion is just a temporary experience we have in our physical body. It is not that I am angry. It is just I experience anger in my body. Let's take a minute to experience the physiology of the emotions you sensed in your body. Now let's reflect. Let's put yourself inside the other person looking out at you. Think about this statement. Everybody wants to be happy. This person thinks acting this way will make them happy in some way. So without judging it to be right or wrong, let's just bring this perspective into this situation. Now let's bring into the mind the ways in which you might respond to this situation that would have a most positive outcome. You don't have actually do it. Just imagine what is the most positive response you can provide in that situation. So what does that look like? And let's sit here for another 30 seconds to create that positive response we might have. Let's now let go of that image of the situation and to bring your awareness back to your breath. If you still experience strong emotions in your body, you can make a tight fist with your hand. Holding any of your residue emotion there. Then slowly open your fingers and let go of that energy. And let's just settle your mind here for another 1 minute. We're moving to the close of this meditation. I'm going to ring the bell. And slowly, gently bring your awareness back to this room. And you could open your eyes and stretch your body. Welcome back.
So in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about what was that experience like for you with your partner. So we're going to practice what's called mindful conversation, which is similar to what you did before with one difference, a new way, a new technique that we're going to introduce to you. So in this exercise, you again going to listen with your gift of attention for your partner. You're not going to. You can acknowledge, you can smile, but you will not talk. It's for your partner to fully express how was that experience for them. When they finish talking, then you have an experience to loop back what you think you heard. Okay? Now the important thing to remember when you're looping back what you think you heard, you are not a voice recorder. Okay? So you don't have to play back exactly what they say. This is your practice to be fully present, because it's important for you to kind of communicate what you think you've heard rather than just verbatim what you think they say. Okay? It's not a memory test. And what you find is if you're fully present when you listen, you probably get the gist or the essence of what they're going to say anyway. In looping back, sometimes the first time you do it, you might not get it exactly right. That's okay. The person can correct you. And there's a bit of back and forth until you get it kind of right and the person felt fully heard. And that's the technique that we're practicing of looping back. Okay, so when we start with your partner, so everyone has a partner. If you haven't, can you get close to a partner so we get up in pairs? Anyone? If you can stand up and maybe, if you don't have a partner, everyone has a partner, right?
So stand up.
If
And
you
I
don't
know
have-
that we have been asked you guys to talk to your neighbors in the entire morning. So now is the time for you to find someone you haven't worked with. So pick someone in the room that you haven't worked with so far. You don't know this person. It's going to be a brand new experience. So raise your hand if you don't have a partner.
So raise your hand if you don't have a partner. So Joe,
I think we'll see.
okay, Joe, Mark,
Yeah.
and Joe.
You probably know
Perfect.
each other.
Okay, take a seat and or find a comfortable spot. So, okay. So before you start, a little bit about timing. So we need a person A, and the person A is the person who lives furthest from this location. Okay? The person who lives furthest from this location is person A, and you will speak first. You have 3 minutes to answer the prompt, which I'll show you shortly. 3 minutes. Okay? So 3 minutes when A talk and B is going to listen. Then you have 5 minutes, to loop back. Okay, that's the looping process I described just then. And then after that, we'll switch roles. And then we'll have a few minutes where you have a meta conversation about how was that conversation for you. Okay, any questions before we begin? No? Ready? Great. 3 minutes. Person A and person B listen. Oh yeah. Okay, before you start, apologize. The prompt is, how are you feeling right now? What did you experience during the exercise? Or anything else you want? That's the 3 prompts. Okay, so person A, you have 3 minutes. Any one of them.
I started nodding off during the exercise, so I think I kind of missed the actual process. Stop notice. But I was enjoying the sort of getting back into the situation and realizing that I was kind of feeling like it felt energy in my head. I felt the energy in my head. I was associating it with anger and with sort of slamming the fist on controlling slightly with fist on the table. And
We should get more detail.
I was just sort of moving off, so I don't know, I think I missed at least one of them. But, feeling mix of tired and rested. What I was also reflecting on part of I recall sort of working with different people and feeling there was 4 meetings and 3 of the 8 teams we worked together. Her or something that carry on. I felt very excluded from the group. And I think that may have contributed to some of my frustrations and behavior that was going on. I did go through a bit of a work where I said,
Okay. Person B, please look back. What do you think you heard? You have 5 minutes. So first.
So we have a break. So we train. We're on time. Fantastic.
Right?
well, I think yeah, quite possibly, and that's kind of interesting feedback. Yeah, yeah.
Let's do, I think a song with them because it's quite new to the countdown. So I think this is really good.
I guess I Sometimes very slowly. I used to get angry. I would ask them to do something, tell them to do something, and they would do it.
Meditation, what is meditation?
So, what I really realized is that
Define
if
meditation.
I asked you to do something, you said no, then my tone would change. You know, the angry tone, or say something start making these things.
What is meditation?
It took me a long time to realize that, oh, maybe when I
What
think,
is
yeah, so that's listening to music, so I take it totally down. Over a couple of years,
Working on your mind. Working on your mind meditation.
I realized that he switches off as soon as I change my tone. That's the tone of it. So if I go to an angry tone, angry tone. He switched off. So it took me
Okay.
time to realize it.
Now, person B, you get to share. Remember the 3 prompts. How are you feeling right now? What did you experience during the exercise, content or process, or anything else you want? You have 3 minutes to share. And person A, you'll do mindful listening.
What is magic?
I have a dongle. That's a dongle. Usually Macs don't have the laptop, so you need a dongle. I'm having trouble with the sound, but this one seems to work.
Very good.
As a backup. Okay, now, person A, please loop back to person B. What do you think you heard? You have 5 minutes. Alrighty, welcome back. last stretch. So we've done with SPNR and